as I said, my name is Michael Burston. I'm a resident in District 1, and I'm a couple of things. The first thing is I was attempting to use the website to zoom in on that map so I could see exactly where District 1 is. And unfortunately, the mapping service that you're using doesn't work right, at least not in the browser that I'm using. I have a printout of what the screen looks like when I try to use it. I would like to see if the City Council can get a better designed website that works on more browsers and more systems. The second thing is looking over the past minutes. I have noticed that on several occasions a motion seems to be put up on the agenda, shows up at one meeting and one meeting only. It gets approved in maybe 4 minutes with little to no public discussion. And it feels like the council is just rubber stamping things. Is it possible to put in a motion for the council to consider requiring everything to be on at least 2 agendas so that there's a chance for people to even be aware that that's an issue and to bring comments on it before it gets approved? And the third thing that I'm trying to understand is I found 2 lease agreements in the minutes for aircraft hangars. And I'm trying to understand, why does the city need aircraft hangars and why it's got lease agreements for these? And these are the issues that I would like to have the council, obviously not tonight because as you said, they have to go on the agenda, but I'd like to understand why.
Okay.
If I could get you to write your number down on a piece of paper, I would be happy to call you on regarding all 3 of these items tomorrow. We can totally go through them.
Gladly. Actually, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, everyone. Good to be back seeing your beautiful faces. My name is Olson Crawford. I come from Bakersfield, California. I'm with, we call ourselves the True Love Tribe. And we are trying to demonstrate our love for wonderful public officials. This time we're focusing on the mayors of Kern County, all the mayors of Kern County. We're looking to award them at a banquet with certificates and also a lifetime plaque for their incredible selfless service to the public, which I have come to realize and see for myself. So this is our way of saying that we love you, we appreciate you, we want you to keep going, and we believe that Kern County is the best county in America. What makes us the best is because we love each other and we're working together. And if you mayors can attend, this will demonstrate that we are united. United, you're always stronger. So every city is unique, but when they come together periodically for various reasons, it just strengthens the bonds and promotes cooperation and togetherness. So if by chance I have more invitations, reminders, because I don't have emails for you all, so I want to leave these with you again. And I strongly invite city council members to come and everyone to come. I believe this will be a memorable and historic event. So the event is September 29th, so we have time. And you might see my ugly face again, to remind you again. But anyway, we really would like to see all the mayors there and council members who can attend. Thank you very much.
You can give those to Mr. Schlosser. Oh, thank you, sir.
My name is Ed Gordon, Tehachapi resident for 30 years. I'll take some of Barb's thunder since she always brings up her length of stay here in the Tehachapi Valley. Tehachapi Valley resident. I know last meeting Ashley brought forth a MOU discussion about non-aeronautical use at the airport. I know that it's probably been a year or so since the findings from the FAA about non-aeronautical use at the airport. I haven't attended all meetings. YouTube is kind of flighty, and I don't know if it's been discussed, but it seems like we're going piecemeal with the FAA findings and, you know, the remediation from the findings. If you can kind of, you know, give a description about the plan or the plan of attack that's to remediate those findings from the federal government.
Not a problem. So we are working little by little on this. There were quite a few items on that letter. Hangar use policy, MOUs between interdepartmental agencies or departments. So yes, we are little by little bringing those to the council to work through that process. I also have monthly conference calls with the FAA as we're working through the letter and all their findings.
Is there a date when they need that all wrapped up, or is it kind of open-ended at this point?
I'd say it's open-ended on that end, as long as we are continuing to proceed with that, their findings. Like I said, we're working on that little by little.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, if we have no further comments, we'll move on to item 2, minutes for the Tehachapi City Council.
Thank you, Ms. Wiggins. Just for clarification on the minutes of the last meeting, there was a comment that was made that we did not capture, and I feel it should be included in the minutes. That comment was, I want to know if there is anything we can do to conduct the business of the people when we can't get a majority, and that was directed at Mr. Schroeder. I don't need any comment on that. I think we just need to include that in the minutes for the last meeting.
Okay, did you want to make a motion to approve those with an amendment?
Well, if you'd like to, you can make the motion because it was actually your words that you presented to the city attorney.
Go ahead.
Okay, with that change, that addition to the minutes, I make a motion to approve the minutes from those meetings. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Let the record show it was 4-0. Number 3.
Since this particular special use event application is a contract between the entity that presents this to us and the city of Tehachapi, I feel that we should have utmost clarity and confirmation of certain things that are included in this particular application before we proceed with approving or concurring with this. So, I'm sure that the folks that submitted this are familiar with this particular document. Is the event open to the public? The box is ticked yes. Is the event for money-raising purposes? There is no tick box for either yes or no. So I'd like to have clarification on that for the record, whether or not this event is for money-raising purposes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I'm assuming that we can tick that box, or you will update or revise your application to reflect that.
Tick the box.
Okay, you're going to tick the box and you're going to resubmit that to the city council.
Or you can make a motion with checking the box. I will just make it clear on here that the question below does say, if yes, what will the proceeds be used for? And it does actually state what the proceeds would be used for, so I would say it's maybe a given.
Yes.
But it's not a given because the box is not ticked. This is an application and a contract between an entity and the city of Tehachapi. We either tick the boxes and we make it clear, or we don't. So in that particular case, it wasn't done, so it will be done, and we will move on to the next item. Under the please describe how the following will be accomplished. Street barricades. Yes.
Yes.
Are you putting the barricades up? Is the city putting the barricades up?
The city does, just like all events.
Could we have clarification on how that's going to happen?
Mr. Happy,
Yes.
that always goes to the departments, and they decide how it's going to happen.
Okay, well, Mr. Schroeder, with all due respect, I'm just trying to get more, yeah, more of an answer.
You really mean all due respect?
Yes.
You really mean that?
I sure do.
Okay. That, it goes to the departments. And
Okay,
And they
so-
will bring it back to the
I've already
city.
met with Public Works and the police chief on this whole event,
Okay, so we have crowd control, no response to anything.
because you don't need it.
Okay, so that would be a no, I'm assuming?
Right, this blanket means no.
Okay, well, that is not specified anywhere in this application. Yes means yes, and no usually
We
means
never
no.
require a no if it's not going to be.
Lights are going to be needed.
Just the lights that are in the plaza, but not extra lights.
Okay, thank you. Dust control. Last year, I was in downtown when the event was underway. The parking was very, very restrictive and very tight. People were parked everywhere. They also parked on the railroad property that was on the other side of the depot, and the dust in that area was flying very, very thick.
Well, we direct all traffic to the high school football field parking lot. I do not tell people to park, there is no instructions to park in the dirt.
Okay, well, maybe we should be a little more proactive, because actually
We
that's
actually
private.
give them a map, so every single person who walks through the door gets handed a map on parking, and that morning, we pay as a donation to the Kern County Sheriff Explorers, and they hold up 7 signs directing them down to the parking lot. So in their ride instructions, so right before they know to come and get their packet, they get a map. They get a map handed to them that day, and that morning, for everyone coming from Bakersfield or local, is directed to go down to the football field.
Okay, well, last year we had people parking over on the other side of the tracks
Yeah,
on
I
the
don't
depot.
tell them they can, so.
Well,
they're just doing
it creates a problem because one, that's private property for the railroad, and two, it creates an absolute mess because of the dust in the air. It goes everywhere downwind from that location.
Okay.
The health department box, I mean, the security's not ticked and the site facilities isn't ticked, or there's no comments in there, so I'm not sure what no comments mean other than using your analogy of
Don't
no.
need it.
The health department box, there was nothing in there, but could you confirm that all of the food and drink handlers who will be working the event have their California food handler certification and card?
Yes,
Okay, great.
we use one vendor.
Sorry?
We use Red House Barbecue, and he does events everywhere, and he has that permit. We
Yeah, I'm
only
not
use
talking
one.
about the catering folks. I'm talking about the folks that are handing out the water, the granola bars, some of the other stuff.
Yeah, we have a permit.
You have a permit?
At the rest stops, you mean?
Yeah, where anybody is handing out food, drink, water, whatever to any of the riders. Do those individuals have? Sorry?
It's not required.
Okay. I'll take your word on that. The box for initials for indicating whether or not you understand that there will be a 3-hour minimum for call-out services for city employees. That's not ticked, nor is it initial. You do understand that that requirement exists?
Sure.
Okay. Ashley, again, that's going to be a mark on our behalf, that Ms. Vance understands that?
It's not a problem, never come in.
Okay. And, you know, just for clarification, this is what we were given. And when I read through a contract and understand what's written, and I don't see a bunch of lines and blanks or boxes ticked or filled in, then it's our obligation to do what we need to do, and that's to ask questions. So that's why this is underway. The liability insurance requirements. The party requesting to use the facility, the applicant, shall secure and keep in force during the entire term of the applicant's use, insurance.
Yes.
Do we have a copy of that insurance certificate that was included? Well, it was not included in the packet
Right.
for us.
The Recreation and Park District does a lot of events in the city, and so they have a copy of our insurance for all year.
Okay, that would have been a nice thing to
Let me
include.
interrupt.
Yep.
I haven't seen it. And it needs to be, have liquor liability too.
The liquor, yes,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm waiting for a license, I have to have this in order for me to get a license.
If I will too, this is why we add that it needs city attorney approval. And also, if you can see under staff conditions, we do have additional conditions may follow.
I do see that, but you have to understand, Ms. Whitmore, that when we are asked to sign off on this, we are signing off on what we have in front of us. And I appreciate that sometimes we have to go back and get additional information, but this is what the council is being asked to sign off on. If we want to postpone this until we've got all the boxes ticked and the I's dotted and T's crossed, then I am more than happy to do that tonight.
I need this for the Caltrans.
You can direct me to make sure that it comes in. I already talked to Tori about it. Where is the insurance? She said it would be here today.
Okay.
And hopefully it will be.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, that's important. That is a very important matter. If I go to item number 4, just as a comparison, and this is what Charles White submitted for the Heritage League. He's got the insurance certificate attached. He's got all the blanks filled in. He's got the nomenclature for barricades and parking signs and museum volunteers, et cetera, et cetera. And just as a comparison, I don't have any, excuse me, I don't have any concerns or issues with what Charles White did. And I think that next time we just need to be a little more, we just need to be a little more thorough in ticking some of these boxes, because again, we are asked to sign off on this on behalf of you folks and your event. And it would be much easier for us if I could see, like item number 4 on the agenda, I wouldn't have to have said what I said. So
you can also call me at the Park District and ask questions.
It doesn't work.
My phone number is 822-3228 extension 4. And I am totally available. It would have been awesome if you could work with the Park District to be able to give us a heads up. It was an oversight. I apologize for not initialing and ticking the box. I really apologize. And we do a lot with the city of Tehachapi on all of our events. Every run for 4th of July, every event that we do is in the city of Tehachapi. So I think it would have been awesome if you were able to communicate with me at the Park District.
805-508-3912.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know no questions. I
hope
apologize.
you appreciate that this is what we have to work with.
I appreciate you.
Councilmember Hecky,
Yes.
I just want to point out, Charles's application does not include liquor liability insurance. I've already told
Not
him.
on the ABC.
You want to see that?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to make sure that comes in before they hold that event, the same with there.
Fantastic. And Mr. Schroeder, I greatly appreciate that, because events, especially with the Grand Fondo, I mean, there are a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of people in town. There's a lot of activity. Big vehicles win the battle between little vehicles. And we just need to make sure that we have everything completely covered. So thank you for that. And I don't have any other questions, and I'll make the motion to go ahead and approve that.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show it was 4-0. Number 5.
Number 5 is the check register for those, or the payments made by the city, for those that do not see that on the overhead screen. I just have some questions pertaining to this, nothing significant, but there are some issues that, sorry, not issues, just questions. If we go to page number 10 on the accounts payable register, the top item, this was for Mr. Garrett, and it says special legal services through June of 2018. Could we have a clarification on what special legal services were contracted for?
You're looking at GG.
I am.
That's general government.
Oh, okay, well, there you go, general government.
And that specifically is public works and police union negotiations.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a charge for some sanitation at the airport. The monthly standard unit rental for the porta potties. They are located at the park, and specifically the handicap unit is at the park. Is this charge wholly assigned and charged to the airport, or is that split amongst other entities or departments within the city? Because that porta potty setup gets used for the Pacific Coast hikers, use it extensively, and other folks will ultimately use that do not have anything to do with the airport.
Correct, so correct me if I'm wrong, Ashley, but it's charged wholly to the airport enterprise fund. The hikers do pay, or they're supposed to pay $5 a night for camping, so the concept is that would pay for that and other entities that would.
And that money does come back to the airport?
It does.
From the hikers?
Absolutely. Okay.
Then I have a question regarding Hub International Services. It was a special event insurance policy for the Artisan Fair. And we paid, I'll just round it off, $700 for that if INS stands for insurance, which I'm assuming that it does.
What page?
Special event insurance, sorry, correct. It's page 17.
If I may, when an event is happening on city property, if somebody cannot provide their own insurance, they can purchase insurance through Hub International, which is through the city. And so they pay us, and then we just filter that right through to Hub International.
And then those folks reimburse, or sorry, they're buying it through us, and it closes the loop on who is paying for what.
It's a net.
Okay, super. All right, that's the extent of my questions. I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show it was a 4-0 vote.
Thank you, Ms. Wiggins. Item number 6. This was the treasurer's report. I don't necessarily have any questions, but at the same time, I don't have the backup for some of this. But I think it is important for us to realize that looking at just purely raw data on the report, the airport credit card sales, which were for the fuel, gallons of fuel that were sold at the airport. And if these numbers are incorrect, please feel free to correct me or interject. There was almost $83,000 worth of fuel sales at the airport it was in the month of June. That's a fantastic number.
So can I?
Sure.
That does not reflect the actual sales for that month. That's just the balance in that account. So the money, whatever that comes in, it's just a matter of timing. So that does not tell much the sales.
Okay. Well, that's thank you for that clarification. I was the way this looked. I was going to compliment the fact that we sold $83,000 worth of fuel, which would be a wonderful thing because that definitely would reflect.
So, in additional comments, actually, I do see some increase in the sales. It has been.
Great. That's good news also. I don't have any other comments on that, so I'll make the motion to go ahead and approve as presented by staff.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show it was a 4-0 vote. Assistant to the City Manager report. Cal Association for Local Economic Development presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Wiggins, and I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about an event that the City of Tehachapi has been blessed to be able to host. It's a first-time event, and I'm going to tell you real quickly about the California Association of Local Economic Development, CalED. In May of 2018, the CalED Board approved the creation of a Rural Economic Development Exchange. Basically allows those of us in USDA-designated rural communities to sort of connect and share resources. At the annual conference in Monterey, we got a chance to get together, just the rural communities, and talk about what we face, because our issues in Tehachapi and maybe parts of San Bernardino County are different than what's happening in Los Angeles and San Francisco. And so we kind of talk about our economic development challenges and how to overcome those challenges together with people of really similar backing and with a designated USDA rural area. So what Cal decided to do is they decided to create a separate track just for us rural communities. And as part of that, they wanted to start the Rural Exchange. And it's an opportunity outside of the annual convention for the rural stakeholders to sort of once a year get together and talk about our issues and then have it hosted at a rural site. So we're not going to Anaheim or something to have this convention. They are going to pick a local spot in a rural community to have this event. So we were fortunate enough to put in for this event, and amongst a lot of competitive applicants, the city of Tehachapi was chosen as the host site for the first Rural Economic Development Exchange through CalEd, and that will be September 25th and 26th. So this is an opportunity to not only talk about what we have going on, but also share what's happening in our community with other economic developers across the state that will come to Tehachapi. So we're going to have it on September 25th and 26th. We're going to have an afternoon tour of a local manufacturing business. Actually, we're going to go with World Wind and Solar. They're going to take us through one of their one of the big projects out on the Tehachapi Pass and talk about the history of wind on a bus tour with some folks from around the state. And we'll have a reception to follow as well out at Triassic Vineyards. We get a chance to showcase a couple things happening both with businesses in the city and the greater Tehachapi area. And then on September 26th will be kind of the heavy lifting day. We'll have our Rural Economic Development Exchange, Slice of Life Enrichment School, and the agenda is sort of being finalized still for that, but there'll be a lot of topics presented by on things that are basically affecting us rural communities and how we can help become competitive and stay competitive, frankly, economically in the state of California. So that's the nutshell of the event. The benefits, obviously, the reason why we put in for an event like this is really to showcase statewide the economic success of our community and what we have going on. There's a lot of different things happening both in the city and the greater Tehachapi area. Expecting over 100 visitors, hoping for about 150 in the economic development profession into our community. Of course, that means hotel occupancy for a couple nights, and a few local hotels have already given a special rate for those, so we appreciate that. We get to build stronger partnerships within the state. I'm fairly new to this organization, so it's an opportunity for us to really get a strong voice in this rural exchange right off the bat, taking a leadership role, to have a new rural exchange, and then to be the ones that are hosting the first kind of sets the bar and shows that we're going to be serious with this. So it's an opportunity to do that as well. And of course, we can't do this alone. We have some partners that have stepped up. Special thanks to the Greater Tehachapi Economic Development Council will be the reception sponsor of our first night, so they'll be paying for that. The Kern Economic Development Council will be a part of it a little bit as well, and our friends at the Triassic Vineyard for hosting the reception part. So a good opportunity for Tehachapi to be on a statewide stage and share ideas and find solutions to help us really statewide that are sharing the same issues and types of resources to be successful and attractive for businesses. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Yes.
Probably everyone here in the room says congratulations. I mean,
Bravo.
Yes.
Anyone else have any comments?
Just make sure, Corey, that you don't mention that we do not allow chickens in town as laying hens. And I say that tongue in cheek, but you know, it's a rural effort.
Yes.
And you know, we passed an ordinance several years ago that drew back laying hens and pot-bellied pigs and all kinds of other different things. So
I'll make sure that we do not put that on the agenda for discussion.
go silent on that one.
There we go. All right, I'm with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Police chief reports, emergency abatement.
Good evening, Mayor Riddens and council members. First item I have this evening is an emergency abatement action conducted by our code enforcement officer at 122 Chaparral Street. I'd ask Officer Price to present the staff report, please.
Good evening. Pursuant to Tehachapi Municipal Code 116.065M, emergency abatements may be conducted by the city when they are appropriate. This code also requires a hearing before the city council following any such abatement in order to determine whether or not the code enforcement officer's abatement actions were appropriate. On May 22nd, 2018, the property located at 122 Chaparral Street was inspected based on a complaint that it was abandoned and had overgrown vegetation. During the inspection, the property was found to be obviously vacant. During the inspection, multiple violations were observed on the property, including trash, overgrown weeds, grass, and vegetation. In addition to being overgrown, there was a significant amount of dry weeds in the rear yard, which constituted a significant fire hazard which could have endangered neighboring residences. A notice of violation was posted on the property, with a copy being mailed to the legal owner of the land. Unfortunately, upon further investigation, it was discovered that the property owner was deceased. Due to the property being abandoned in a blighted condition, the lack of any known responsible party, and the significant fire hazard, an abatement warrant was obtained from the Kern County Superior Court in order to abate the violations. On June 17, 2018, the abatement warrant was served on the property and through the use of a private contractor. All the trash, debris, and dead and overgrown vegetation was removed from the property. Staff's recommendation is the approval of the emergency abatement actions conducted at 122 Chaparral Street, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have regarding this.
Any questions concerning this from the audience? Council?
Again, thank you, and it's one of those things that a lot of people don't want to complain, but they do appreciate, and the neighborhood, the whole neighborhood will appreciate it when you do take action like this, because they're suffering in silence a lot of times, and believe me, they do appreciate it. Thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, sir.
Any other council comments? Sir?
Yes. I'm just curious, what happens to the property at this point? You said that the previous owner was deceased and there was no who owns it next available?
At this point, what we're going to do is file a declaration of substandard property of the title because we need to protect the city's investment. Obviously, we have to pay a contractor to abate this, and we don't want it to go against taxpayers. We're going to continue to monitor it for the next couple of years. Hopefully, you know, a son, a daughter, somebody's going to come in and take charge of the property. Otherwise, if it continues to become a problem, keeps getting broken into, we'll have to take more aggressive action, either receiverships or something to that effect.
Thank you.
For the Swazi, how much did it cost the city to clean that up?
The contractor cost was $1,700, which we will recoup completely. In addition to all of my staff time, we have an entire sheet for everything from getting the abatement warrant to filing the lien.
Thank you. Any other?
Is there interest on that money?
At this point, we don't charge interest. We're just looking to recoup our own losses, so we're not affecting the general fund.
Question. Just a minute, he's coming up.
When you contract this out, did you
I'm
have
sorry,
a
can you
contractor?
state your name and
Michael
area?
Big Lake, Tehachapi, San Canyon. When you contract this out, do you put up a bid to contract it out, or do you have a contractor you just use? And what was the
When I first came here in 2015, we bid out, or I attempted to bid out to many contractors. Unfortunately, most of them weren't interested in doing this type of work. We don't have the ability to bid on these emergency abatements ahead of time each time, so we have to have an actual cost for each item, hauling debris away, doing a board up, things like that, because these are done in a rather rapid fashion in order to protect public safety. So at this point, we just use one contractor because he's the only one who was frankly willing to give me a bid for that type of work.
Thank you.
Barbara Reynolds, owner of Tehachapi Court Services, 26 years, and a resident of Tehachapi for 46 years. Officer Price, thank you for that summary. Councilor Schroeder, correct me, But as I understand it, that lien is recorded against that property because no one has come forward. Therefore, the city's interest is protected with that lien. And it becomes a recurring lien until something happens to the property, they try to sell it, and then the lien is satisfied because it's a cloud on the title. Is that what I understand correct, Attorney Schroeder?
If we file a lien, are we going to file a lien on it?
Yeah, of course.
Yes, it is correct if we do file a lien.
Normally, we would file a lien if I believe this was going to be a one-time matter. Unfortunately, since the property owner is deceased, there's a likelihood we're going to have to do this again. So I just left it as a substandard declaration, which clouds the title. It's very similar to a lien, but we haven't attached a monetary value until somebody comes forward and tries to get that released from title, then we provide them with the full cost.
So that notice is recorded?
Yes.
And title's clouded. Good.
Okay, well, consider putting a lien on it too. I know it might be redundant to have to do it over and over again.
Okay.
But once it gets into escrow, someone decides to sell it, gets into escrow, they're only going to pay the lien, they're not going to pay the substandard non-monetary declaration. So I consider that for you.
I can do that.
Okay.
Thank you, Officer Perez.
Any other questions or comments from the audience? Council?
Motion on staff's recommendation.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show the vote was 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Price. Next item I have, Mayor Wiggins, is the memorandum of understanding between the City of Tehachapi, Tehachapi Police Department, and Tehachapi Unified School District. As council is aware, for a number of years we've contracted with the school district to provide a school resource officer. School resource officers play an important role in maintaining and increasing the safety within our schools and neighboring communities. For this reason, it is imperative for public safety that we continue this partnership with the Tehachapi Unified School District. A current memorandum of understanding clearly documenting the program's purpose, partner roles and responsibilities, requirements for information sharing, and supervision of the SRO has been established. As you recall, a few meetings ago we discussed this. There were some hurdles that we had to get over with the school district as far as some indemnity language. I'm pretty confident at this time that we have successfully gone through that. The school district will be taking this MOU before their board on the 14th. School starts on the 15th, so it was necessary for me to bring this before council today so that we can have this in place before school starts, so that we can have SRO on campus on day one of school starting. So if there's any questions about the SRO position or this MOU, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience?
So, Michael Thurston, what does an SRO do?
The SRO is on all of the school campuses, enforcing laws, working with the students, mentoring students, just a presence on the school campus to deter crime and to have a positive interaction with the students.
Any other questions? Council?
Yes, Ms. Williams. Chief, I've got several questions and comments regarding the document. I read it in its entirety, and I think it was a great effort to get to where we're at. There's a couple of things that jumped out at me, though, that I think you may be able to go back to the school district with as a point of contention in some cases. Under the responsibilities that we assume, that's on the first page of the actual contract, section 1, responsibilities of TPD, down the third paragraph. TPD will assign to the position of SRO only those law enforcement officers agreeable to the Unified School District and the TPD. Does that not give us a little bit of we are bound up, let's just say you've got a staffing issue, somebody calls in sick, do we have to go back to them and have them agree to that new replacement person?
Not on a sick call-in, sir, I wouldn't, but my actually assigned SRO is something that we've agreed that we're going to confer with the school district and make sure that they're in agreement with the officer that we place into that position. I don't want to have a situation where I have an officer there that doesn't work well with staff,
And we want to give them that opportunity to have that input in this partnership so that we have the right person on campus interacting with those students and interacting with the staff.
Okay, so Chief, we've got a primary person that's going to be the quote-unquote SRO,
Correct.
and then we have a backup or a secondary person just in case.
That's going to be, I don't have a designated secondary person because I can't do that just based on our staffing levels and the way that we deploy our personnel. It would have to be when that situation arises. If someone calls in sick, I would have to find a person for that.
The next paragraph covers that. It says we get to select whoever we want.
Okay, and I may get to that a little bit later in the agreement. On to page 2. One of the things that jumped out regarding the TPD will participate in the school attendance review board meetings. And I kind of snickered at that a little bit. Anybody that has gone to junior high or high school and didn't make it to class every day on time or missed one here or there, you know, you ended up in front of the principal typically, but you also had a truancy officer. Are we going to be put into a position as the SRO to where we attend these school attendance review board meetings and somehow that bleeds over to becoming a truancy officer?
We don't regularly get involved in routine truancy type events. Habitual truancy type situations, we will get involved in those types of situations. And generally it's trying to get the student to attend school and working with the parents to try and resolve that issue and seeing what the issue is and why they're not attending school. So,
sure.
You know, it's not something we do on a routine basis. When one person missed class today, we're not going to show up at their house knocking on their door for truancy enforcement.
Okay.
It's the habitual truants that we'll deal with.
Okay, and then that...
If I might add something to that, I chaired the Student Attendance Review Board at Mojave Unified, and these are kids that have had 1 warning, 2 warning, 3 warning letters, very serious problems, and the advantage of having sometimes a deputy district attorney and a police officer is to make them believe that the law says they have to send their children to school. So it's not just every day.
Okay, great, thank you for that, Ms. Williams. That particular paragraph may actually have a little bit of conflict with the middle paragraph on page 3, and I'm going to give you my marked up copy, Chief, at the end of this. But it says that make reasonable effort to cooperate with the Unified School administrative personnel. However, the SRO will not be used to enforce school administrative discipline. Correct. So, yeah, that truancy issue and then the discipline issue could sort of bleed over one to the other. Again, I don't need an answer, but these were just things that sort of jumped out at me.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand your concern. That's definitely something that we really try and train our SRO on, is not getting involved in routine administrative functions of the school and focusing on crime issues. So that's something we really focus on with our SROs to make sure that that happens and we don't have that crossover.
Okay, super. Thank you for that. The next one is, this falls over on the responsibilities of the Unified School District. We all are very, very painfully aware of what happened when the trees got cut down. That is still out there as a cloud on whoever did it, and sort of a cloud on the doggone community for allowing that to happen. The Unified School District, I feel, should or shall install and maintain security cameras in common areas so as to assist the TPD with SRO activities. And Chief, I sure would try to get that in, and I appreciate that the school district may have concerns on privacy issues with students. At the same time, if this is purely available to the administrators at the school and your department for making sure that crime is not occurring on campus, I would sure try to get that in that contract. I know the school district, well, I don't know it for a fact, but the hearsay was that there were cameras that were at the school commons area, but they unfortunately were not working at the time when this incident occurred. It sure would be nice to have you guys have that extra arrow in the quiver with a set of working cameras to make your job a little bit easier should you need that.
I'd like to also add someone has to pay for those, and that's why they don't have adequate cameras right now. They used to provide school safety grants, and you could write a grant and you could get cameras all over your campus. They don't have that opportunity anymore, and they're very expensive, and somehow someone's got to pay for them.
Ms. Wiggins, thank you very much, and I appreciate that. However, if me, you, or anybody else has strolled through the aisles of Costco, I understand that those are not necessarily commercial grade cameras, but that system, which can be very, very strategically placed and used, could be just enough. And those are sub $1,000 systems that can be put out. You don't need 800 cameras, you need a couple strategically located in common places, and I think, Chief, that would be something that you could go back to the district on.
I would certainly agree with you that cameras would be beneficial, but I would really, unfortunately, I disagree with you in putting that as a condition of me providing them with an SRO that they have these cameras in place. And I'm not going to remove one element of security to ensure that they have another element of security before I do that. If that makes sense.
It makes total sense, but I sure would. I would take the full opportunity, and I hope that folks that the powers be over there are listening to this broadcast tonight. We need to make sure that our students are safe on those campuses. Your guys, your officers have done a fantastic job in the past with that whole program. And we just need to make sure that we, as the council, have given you every possible tool that you need to do your job as good as possible. And then the final thing that I've got, I've got two more. There was a typo, the last page, last paragraph. I don't think it's meant to read authorized by the legislative boy. I think that is probably the legislative body. So that was just a catch on that. Mr. Schroeder, I noticed that they specified in this agreement that to execute this MOU at the level of city manager or city attorney or equivalent. I've not seen that in an agreement on the signature page in the past. Is that something, Mr. Schroeder, that you should actually sign on behalf of the attorney, as the attorney for the city of Tehachapi, to ensure that we've got your blessing on this issue?
First of all, it's to be signed by the mayor and by the chief.
Right.
Not by the city manager or anybody else.
Well, it says in here, it specifically calls out the last sentence, city manager or city attorney or equivalent.
Where is that?
It's on page 7, the execution page. And I was a little bit...
in the paragraph.
In the paragraph, yeah. I was a little bit surprised that it actually...
That shouldn't be there. It's got to be signed by the mayor and the chief.
Okay, so that'll be chief, you can strike.
We've been using this very same form for the last 6 years.
Yeah.
And it might have been that got carried over from early days. And, but thanks for pointing that out. That should not be.
Again, I'm just reading documents, and when I see something I think we need to discuss it.
And my apologies for missing that, sir. This document, as you can imagine, we've been going back and forth for probably about 4 months now, sir.
Oh, I bet.
With the city attorney and the school district and everything else, we've had several revisions to this, and you're absolutely correct. That should not be there in that position, and I did miss the typo, so I apologize for that.
Well, I actually missed it the first time I read it, and then I went back and I looked at it again. And
well, I actually corrected one because it had another boy in a previous sentence that I caught. I just didn't catch that one, so my apologies for that.
Okay. Well, again, as a council member, I would like to thank you, and I'd like to thank the officers that participate in this program, because school safety is paramount. We have the obligation as a city and as a community to make sure that we've done everything that we possibly can do to make sure that those students that are at that school or any of the schools in the greater Tehachapi area are safe. And if we have a problem, you guys and your department need to know that, and we need to take some action. So thank you, Chief, for that. And I have no further questions, Ms. Wiggins, and we can go ahead and proceed as presented by the Chief. Make the motion to approve.
Motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Let the record show it was a 4-0 vote. Number 10, Police Chief.
Okay, Honorable Mayor Wiggins and council members, the final item I have this evening is to discuss the city council meeting location. Per ordinance 9809-643, the location of regular meetings of the council shall be set by resolution. As council is aware, in February of this year, the council elected to hold their regular public meetings at the police department community room due to a variety of local control benefits. The meetings have previously been held at the Wells Education Center at 300 South Robinson Street. Since that time, several public safety issues and increased attendance at city council meetings have presented challenges in regards to the current meeting location. The first concern is related to the overcrowding of the community room during these meetings. Attendance at council meetings has significantly increased over the past few months, leading to a situation where those attending the meetings exceeds the maximum allowable occupancy for the meeting room of 68 persons. The overcrowding of the room beyond capacity creates hazardous conditions by obstructing emergency exits from the room, potentially exposing the city to unnecessary civil liability in the event of some type of disaster or emergency. Kern County Fire Department recently reevaluated the community room during a city council meeting setup and reduced the maximum occupancy of the room to 49 persons. Along with the reduction in occupancy, the Kern County Fire Department asked that if I'm going to continue to hold large meetings like that, in order to increase that occupancy at all, I was going to have to change some doors and some hardware on the door to be push bars, to be in conformance with the codes, and a number of other things to make sure that we met building standards and fire standards. So, an additional concern, and my primary concern, is related to the Police Communications Center. Our department has experienced both officer safety and public safety concerns as a result of the meetings being held at this location. Citizens attending the meeting frequently gather in the lobby area of the police department, which is immediately outside the Police Communications Center. The noise level in the lobby has repeatedly interfered with critical communications. Dispatchers have been unable to clearly hear radio transmission from field units and unable to clearly hear 911 and other routine calls coming into the station. This creates an extremely hazardous situation for our officers and the public. Additionally, citizens have expressed concerns over the inability to hear council members and those speaking at the podium due to a lack of a sound system in this facility. There have also been repeated issues with live streaming of our city council meetings due to the intensive strain on our network as it pertains to police business. The recent purchases made to help ensure a backup copy of the meeting can be recorded or portable and can be moved to another location. Staff has contacted Tehachapi Unified School District in regards to moving city council meetings back to the Wells Education Center to increase public safety, allow the police communications staff to perform their critical job without interference, and to better address some technology issues presented in this location. I'd be happy to answer any questions about that. And again, my apologies for this. We clearly didn't anticipate we were going to have these problems when we elected to move those meetings over there. I think it's a good thing that we have a problem that too many people are here at the meetings. That's a good problem to have. However, it was interfering with the police business over there, and I think it's important that we move back to a location that's more suitable for this type of a meeting. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from the audience? Council?
We gave it a shot.
Yeah, it was nice over there too, so.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded, as presented by staff. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Let the record show it was a 4-0 vote. All right, thank you, Chief. City Attorney reports.
Just an informational item, the lawsuit that was filed to require the elections officer to process the petition to put before the voters whether or not we should comply with the CRVA was thrown out by the judge. They have an opportunity to appeal if they want to, but as of the moment, it's dismissed.
Thank you. Any comments from the council? All right, council member reports. I'm going to let Mr. Hedke do his two that are on the agenda, and then we can go around.
Okay.
Or if you'd like to go first.
No, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'll just go ahead and read what is on the screen or coming. As known, the City of Tehachapi appoints 2 members of the Greater Tehachapi area to the TVRPD Board of Directors. Based on recent input from concerned citizens, it is requested a discussion take place regarding the process undertaken by the City Council for the appointment of the TVRPD board members and to clarify the procedural matters needed for recalling any board member that may not be performing to the desires of the community. A formal position regarding this issue from the city attorney would be beneficial to both the citizens and the council. I started getting just questions. How does that process work? How does it happen? How does the appointment take place? And in all sincerity, I could not answer those questions. So I think it's important, Mr. Schroeder, that we hear from you on exactly how that appointment process works. We are elected officials. We are appointing people to a board that are making decisions that impact members of our community, both inside the city and outside. And in some cases, some of those things that the board members do may not be very popular. And the question has come back to me numerous times in numerous forms. What happens, or what can the city council do should we not support a decision by one of those board members? And it's complicated because there's one step removed.
It's not complicated, but let me just clarify what you're asking for. You're not asking for how they're appointed in the first place. I mean,
no, I mean we appoint them.
Ashley can tell you that. Yeah.
Correct.
You just want to know, once they're appointed, can you remove them?
Right. What happens after that appointment takes place?
Once you appoint them, can you remove them? Is that what you're asking?
Correct.
Okay. I'll come back with something on that.
At the next meeting?
Pardon me?
Next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does the council want me to do that?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's beneficial to the community because, again, these are questions that were coming from the community. And they were actually coming from both people inside the city limits and people outside the city limits. I clarified that I can only control what's done inside the city limits. However, because of the way the appointment works and the entity that these folks are appointed to, it's outside the city limits. So thank you, Mr. Schroeder, and we'll wait for your response on that. The next item. The City of Tehachapi was forced via the threat of lawsuit to fully abide by the California Voting Rights Act, sorry about that, voters, and establish voting districts for the purpose of selecting appropriate representation from areas that may not have otherwise had participatory role in the governance of our community. It has been stated by concerned citizens that the City of Tehachapi donates money, makes contributions of services, and otherwise has and conducts business transactions with other surrounding entities, such as the hospital district, the Parks Department, Golden Hills Community Service District, who do not follow the districting requirements as specified by California state law. It is hereby requested by City Council resolution the city take a firm yet representative position with all other affiliated governmental entities with whom business is conducted, and that's in quotes, business in general, and immediately prohibit any further monetary or service-related transactions until such time all non-districted entities comply with California state law and establish representative voting districts. As you can imagine, this particular topic came up very clearly related to the proposed bond measure for the Parks Department. There are concerned citizens who are in outlying areas that have no representation from people that are involved in making those decisions. The district runs, and Michelle and Laura Lynn can describe that a little more if we need it, but most of us know it runs from way to the east to way to the west, and a little bit to the south and around the area. It has come back as a question to me, why does the City of Tehachapi, who has been forced to abide by the districting issues, why do they then continue to do business with entities that have not complied with the districting matters in our locale in the greater Tehachapi area? And that's a question and a statement, Mr. Schroeder.
Yeah, that's going to be hard to answer because you're assuming they're not complying. They first have to discriminate. First has to be what's the term? The voting creation where minorities are left out. That has to be shown. It wasn't shown with the city, but we still had to comply. So when I come back with my answer to your question, it's going to be founded on the fact that there has been a violation, and do we want to continue doing business with that organization? But obviously there hasn't been a violation that anybody's known about yet. And I think you're focused on the recreation district. If you can limit it to that, then it'll be easier for me to do some research on it. But if you want to get into Golden Hills and Stallion,
unfortunately,
the hospital district, if you want all those.
See, unfortunately, the hospital district is a bigger issue because that goes all the way to Mojave. You know,
well, the recreation district they're all elected, but the recreation district is not. So I kind of find it difficult to see how the Voting Rights Act applies to them. But if you want to deal with everybody, then it's going to take some time.
Well, I think what we ought to do very specifically, let's focus on two entities right now. Let's focus on Park and Recs, and let's focus on the hospital district. Because those have the greatest expanse of where people are impacted by decisions that are made. And I appreciate the hospital board is elected, the Park and Recs is appointed. But there's a little bit of an overlap and there's some dovetailing that will go on, I think, with your response.
Just keep in mind, there's been no violation that we know of in either of these districts. So it's kind of a theoretical task that you put on me. And I'm not sure the council wants me to do that.
Well, the theory could happen. Well, I'm not going to make a decision one way or the other regarding what will ultimately happen. Sorry, I'm not going to state what I feel may or may not happen in November. But if the outcome...
No, I'm not talking about what's going to happen in November.
Well, there's a rationale, or there's a clear argument to my point, though. Should certain things happen and certain people in certain areas not have representation on those particular boards for the things that happen, then there could very well be.
How are we going to determine that?
Well, Mr. Schroeder, I'm trying to be proactive in this because the questions were asked of a council member. And when those questions...
It doesn't seem like a rational question.
Oh, it's very rational.
Because it's based on them having violated the CDRA. And they haven't.
They haven't violated it to a point of where they filed a claim. They haven't done that.
Nobody's filed a claim against them. Are you going to go out and sue them?
I live in the city of Tehachapi.
Well, might you sue them?
Well, sure, might. At the same time, I think it's beneficial for us to have a position.
You want a position on something that hasn't happened yet. You want to know whether they should do business with the recreation district if they ever violate the CDRA.
We make decisions in this council chambers and on behalf of this city all the time on speculative things that may or may not happen. Absolutely.
I don't think that's
so. I think that we should just go ahead and proceed.
I can do it.
And let's go through the process to understand what could potentially play out, and if we are prepared for that to play out. As a city, I think it's beneficial.
Okay, Mr. Smith?
All right. I respectfully take an opposing position that there's no representation. The board of directors of the Parks and Rec has 2 city-appointed folks, and I think 3 from the county. Those 3 representatives represent everything inside the Parks and Rec district's boundaries other than the city. So the city residents have 2 members on the board that represent the city, and the entire balance of the district has 3 representatives. So you mentioned that they don't have any representation, they have 3 representatives. And it's not necessarily by area, they have a 3-to-2 advantage because their area is a lot larger, but there is representation. I think a lot of us in this room, when this thing came down on the city, here at the council, the folks in the audience, we didn't like this thing jammed down our throat with an attorney from out of town said you're going to have to comply or you're going to get sued. And we do our research and we find out that there's not one city in the state that has been successful in trying to defend that once this has been initiated. So we chose to go with districts. And I don't want to, it's kind of like we were blackmailed into doing this. None of us wanted that, correct? I mean, we were extorted, if you will, in a manner to form the districts, you know, under, because a lot of us wanted to just do it the way we've been doing it. And it's been very successful electing folks the way it's been done for years. We haven't had a problem until this attorney started successfully suing the cities all around the state, and no one's been able to win. That's kind of water under the bridge for us, but I don't feel like I want to strong arm and put the same onus on all these districts just because we had to do it, you're gonna, son of a gun, you're gonna have to do it too. We didn't like it, we've got it done, it's under our belt, and we're trying to deal with it, but I don't want to take the position that if you don't do it like we had to do it, we're not going to do business with you. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Smith, could you clarify something for me?
Sure, if I can.
Is that not state law?
The suit that was brought, was the impetus for us doing that, was based on state law. But it's not. But it's because there was an imbalance, and they made the case that there was underrepresentation, and you needed to form districts. So, to answer your question, that's a bigger question than I can answer.
Well, I mean, it's rhetorical in a sense.
Sure. Yeah.
It is state law that we're talking about. We have to abide by state law.
We're talking about a state law that nobody's broken yet. The district didn't break it. The other districts, the recreation district didn't break it, and no other district in our area has broken it as far as we know. So what you're asking me to do is to come out with a theoretical opinion. If they do violate the law, then are we going to do business with them? But I think that's not, I don't think that's something that's going to do you any good at all.
Well, not whether it does me any good or not. I'm looking out for the interest of the city.
Well, how does that do that?
Because we are now doing business with others who have not
Perfectly in line with the law as far as we know.
Okay, Mr. Schroeder, if you're comfortable that we are perfectly in line with the law, I still would like for you to do a quick analysis. If you can find anything case law related that you can come back to us with, I think it would be beneficial that we know and we understand that situation. There may be something out there.
It won't be quick. There's a lot of law on that.
There is a lot of law on it, but you're the city attorney and that's what we pay
I'll
you
do it,
for.
but that's what the council wants me to do.
I'd like to comment that it seems like a coincidence to me that we gave the Recreation District $12,000 to help with getting this thing off the ground, and now some concerned citizens, I feel, want us to retaliate against the Recreation District and everyone else, and I don't agree with that.
I think the representation of like Sand Canyon, Hart Flat, stuff like that, I'd like to see better representation. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind. You know, we're packed in here, and you know, we'll hire bureaucrats to run the Parks and Rec for the county, and I would like to see more representation. And I do agree that
you know, if state law is broken, well, I don't have a problem with I don't have a problem with it, but that's just kind of my opinion.
Go ahead.
My name is Carl Garrett. I live in Tehachapi. Becky, do you want Mr. Schroeder to do on that? Mr. Schroeder gets charged so much. This is going to be a bit, we're going to have to pay him that whatever his rate is, and if there's that much lower, this could take hundreds of hours. And I don't think that's very wise of spending our money. As a taxpayer of this city, you know, I don't see paying this gentleman. You know, he's an attorney, and I love attorneys like I love everybody else. You know. But, you know, I don't see why he should get 10, 20, 30,000, whatever it's going to take, and it's going to take a lot. Mr. Schroeder, I don't like you that much.
Well, Ms. Wiggins, through the chair, please.
Yeah,
Could I
I
answer
want to hear
Carl?
from the Recreation District.
Carl, real quick, we have the obligation to make sure that we are doing what we are asked by the public. And when I get people that are asking me questions that I can't answer, at some point we have to make the decision to go to Mr. Schroeder because he is the legal expert. I'm not a legal expert, nor is anybody else up here. Mr. Schroeder is the legal expert, and if it costs us X number of dollars to make sure that we don't have exposure for what we have done in the past, for things that are going to ultimately happen in the future.
Okay, so you got 4 people that like you.
Okay. Laura Lynn, you had your hand up?
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, my name is Laura Lynn Wyatt. I'm currently the president of Tehachapi Valley Recreation and Parks District Board of Directors. I am a county appointee, but I wanted to back up Mr. Headkey on something you mentioned, and maybe I can help clarify, even though I am a county appointee, not a city appointee. But you mentioned when you first brought this to the agenda that you wanted some clarification as to how these appointees were chosen and what the process was. So I just wanted to share with you a little bit what I went through when I was appointed. I'm a volunteer. It is not an election. I don't hold public office. I do not earn a salary. I am 100% a volunteer of my time because I care about my community. When there's an opening on our board, that opening is advertised. It's advertised on the Tehachapi Valley Recreation and Parks website, in the local newspaper, and in my case, on the county website. I had to turn in an application because I was interested in stepping up as a volunteer and state why I was interested in stepping up as a volunteer. Those applications, I understand there was more than one, I was not the only applicant. Those applications went to the county supervisors. The Board of Supervisors reviews those applications and they choose who they believe is the best candidate for the job. So I believe the city is probably a similar process. So I was hoping that that would shed some clarification for you. I understand your point. I know that there are some residents out there that feel like they are not being served, but that was a county-wide opening that was advertised all over the county, and they maybe should have turned in an application like I did, and they could also be serving their community as a volunteer and having a voice. So I don't know how to help them do that. Maybe next time we have an opening, someone from Alpine Forest or Sand Canyon or Hart Flat could turn in an application for consideration. We have a diverse board of directors. As you stated, there are 3 that represent the county areas and 2 that represent the city limits. We are diverse by gender and ethnicity, excuse me, thank you. So I do not believe that there's any violation, and we work very hard for the community, and we're there volunteering our time away from our jobs and our families because we care deeply, and we're trying very hard to make improvements and do what the citizens want us to do. Thank you.
Bigley, San Canyon, Tehachapi. So you stated, city attorney, that you didn't violate any laws that you knew of because of the racial overtones, but you decided
The district have not violated any laws that we know of.
But you decided to comply because it was just easier and cheaper because this outfit is
Palmdale got hit with $4 million when they.
That was Lancaster.
Palmdale got hit.
It was
No,
Lancaster.
it was Palmdale.
Excuse me, sir.
So, I'm not.
You direct your comments to the council and you stop arguing, or you
It
can
was
sit down.
Palmdale that had to pay $4 million because they lost their defense of the case.
Okay, so
we didn't feel that we had violated anything. I think the city council will agree with that. But we did, yeah, we caved in.
So the Voters' Rights Act is talking about racial overtones, because I spoke to the attorney that filed the suit against you, the one that the former council member brought against the city. And he said he would not take on this case because they specialize in cases of racial overtones. He hasn't done a case like this yet. We don't believe that we're represented because all those board members live in Golden Hills or Tehachapi. None of those board members live in the outlying areas. So they're not looking out for us. We don't have anything in Sand Canyon. They don't have anything in Hard Planks or Keene. So all these amenities, the majority of them are built here in the city of Tehachapi, which the city of Tehachapi benefits the most from financially. Now when they put on this new project, they're going to benefit from it even more financially because the burden of the senior center is going to go on to the outlying taxpayers because they're going to take that over. Now there is enough Hispanic people, because I'm one of them, in Sand Canyon to bring this lawsuit for what they call cracking. So just because you haven't seen the lawsuit yet doesn't mean it's not coming, because we've been working on it. Thank you.
It was Palmdale that had to pay $4 million for having to defend against the very same attorney that was suing us. We hired experts on that who were presently in the position of defending a similar lawsuit. And they, I won't get into all the discussions, but we decided it was best to go ahead with the district.
Good afternoon. My name is Mary Corpus Amudio. I live in Tehachapi. I want to address the council by somebody coming up here right now and saying that a former council member, which, as you know, my name was used in that lawsuit, which is a lie. So, Mr. Kenhecke, you need to be really careful who you get your comments from, because your credibility is going down also. That person that just came up here and said that was a lie, because I'm telling you straightforward, you, council, appointed me to represent Tehachapi on TDRPD. And I am telling you right now, my name was used incorrectly. And if you want to go forward and believe something like that, your credibility is awful. And that's just wrong. When you look at that sign right in front of you, Mr. Kenhecke, you look at that. Every decision that you make lies on that. It truly, truly does. You appointed me as a council member, and we had someone after that meeting at TDRPD make a comment to me and tell me that if I didn't make a certain decision he liked, he'd sue us. And you can better guess who that person was. This law is based on minorities, and our council, our board, has several minorities that we represent. That kind of information you need to look at ahead of time before you start believing people, because you don't just believe people that are against TDRPD, you represent the whole town of Tehachapi. When we make a decision that on the board of TDRPD, we represent the district, not just the people that say no. And that's why this vote is good, so the citizens can make that decision. And thank goodness that we have an account that we can fund this, because it's their right. You represent Tehachapi, we represent the districts, we allow them to make a vote. And that's really important. And I will tell you, I've been a volunteer for almost 4 years come December. Almost 4 years. And when I applied, it was only myself that turned in an application. Someone tried to come in later and turn it a little late but didn't follow procedure, and you know all about procedures. and they didn't follow it, so they weren't eligible. So the people who are complaining, go to the county, and I mentioned that, put in their application. Maybe that's something you need to check. Did they put in an application to be on the board? And if not, then they're not willing to put the effort in to volunteer. Those are the people that you need that volunteer their time and their effort to help this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Sephora Schmidt. I live in the city, and I have a question about the makeup of these boards. For instance, with the hospital district, 3 county appointees and 2 city appointees. Now, why should the city of Tehachapi pay Mr. Schroeder to investigate this thing and come up with a plan for the future? Shouldn't we include the county? What is the county going to contribute to this investigation? Are they going to hire a lawyer? Are they going to pay part of this big cost in legal services? What's going to go on here? I think we better find that out before we say, well, Tehachapi will do this. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to take one more comment, and then I'm going to call for do we need a vote on this, or we need direction?
I need direction.
Okay.
I think Mr. Hackey wants the opinion, and so if the rest of you do, or the majority, that's all I need.
I'm opposed to that. One more.
That's a point of order, Ms. Wiggins. We're not talking about voting right now, so that's a point of order. Yeah, thank you. And that's a nice gesture that you make there, so I really appreciate that.
Well, there's no point of order there. She
No.
has the right to her own opinion. Come on, Ken.
Come on,
You're making me
Tom.
feel awkward.
Come on, Tom.
Go ahead.
Peter Graff City. I kind of agree with both you guys. As Mr. Schroeder said, the case was dismissed, and that actually saved a lot of money and a lot of time. The district score turns out to be a blessing. You know, it's given proper representation, and it's given the city to have a lot of candidates come out and really throw their name into the hat. But that being said, I also get what Mr. Heckey's saying too. If we're going to have districts ourselves enforcing that, and if we're going to do business with others, should we not ask them to do the same?
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
You know, I think this should be taken to its we're getting stuff out of order here. I think we need to know if the council would consider not doing business with another entity, and what would happen if they did. You know, are we willing to say that we won't do business with you anymore because you broke the law, or are we not? And I think that's the first thing to find out. And I think Mr. Schroeder already has his marching orders, and that's fine. So, you know, let's have this discussion first with this in mind, and then we can go forward on it, because obviously it's a heated topic, and it's getting off a topic, because it's not a bang on the Parks and Recs district. That's not what it shows. That's not how it was written. So why don't we shorten this up a little bit and have a discussion about this in open forum. Maybe we could have tonight if you want. But I think a little bit down the line we ought to and give the council time to think about this. Is what are we willing to do if somebody does, you know, has to dispute and they don't. And what we're willing to do.
The attorney needs direction. What are you directing him? I wasn't quite clear about that.
It was Ken's direction.
Well, I know, but the council has to say whether we want the attorney to do that or not.
You have to make a motion.
He said he just needs direction. Do you need a motion?
Oh, I need a motion.
All right.
Well, you know what, Mr. Schroeder, you didn't need a motion last week at the culmination of the meeting when Ms. Wiggins asked you whether or not you could look into how to break a vote. So I'm not sure, why did you take that upon yourself and not something like this? I'm not asking this city, you, or anyone else to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to review this. I need your opinion as a lawyer for this community to come back. Something short, something simple, something that we can all accept as a palatable response. And if we need to, we can use that for guidance in the future. I'm not looking for a legal opinion.
You're not looking for anything legal. It's all political. I think Dennis just mentioned it. If there was a violation by one of these districts, would you be willing not to do business with them? That's a political decision. That's not a legal opinion. And I think that's ultimately where you're going.
Well, let me tell you what, if you're a municipality and you're conducting business with somebody that's doing something illegally, that problem becomes our problem.
Not necessarily.
You darn right it does.
Okay. So is the motion, and I'm going to require a motion here because this is going to take a lot of work, is the motion to have me research whether or not we run the risk of some kind of liability if we do business with someone who's found later to violate the CRB, the California Voters' Rights Act. Is that what you want me to do?
Did you spend any of your time and charge this community, this city, for the request that Ms. Wiggins made to you at the last meeting?
Yes.
Well, there you go. Then you don't need a motion from any of us.
I'm going to require a motion.
Well, then, you know what? We are the council.
Yep.
And unfortunately, excuse me?
I want the council to tell me to do it. This is a whole different matter.
Well, the mayor, or the mayor pro tem, or Ms. Wiggins, however you would prefer to
That
address
was
it.
an easy one. 2 to 2, you can't get around 2 to 2.
Well,
that's easy.
You
This
took
one is
that
a whole
upon
different
yourself
ball. It's
to
a whole-
proceed with that matter.
I'm sorry.
And I'm asking you to proceed with that same matter and treat it exactly the same as you treated Ms. Wiggins' position last meeting, and take care of what we've asked to have done.
Mine took, what, 5 minutes for you to research that? Yeah.
Yeah, mine may take 5 minutes also.
So you refuse to make a motion?
No, I will, Ms. Wiggins, this does not require a motion. It is a request of the city attorney to review what he has at his fingertips in his office or other sources to come back with a concise definition of whether or not we have a problem.
That's not at my fingertips. That's going to take a lot of work. So I want direction from the entire council.
So you're not going to say anything else?
Excuse me?
Are you going to make a motion? Are you going to say anything else, or are we done?
Well, you know what, Madam Ms. Wiggins, why don't you make the motion to proceed as written here in item number 12 and number 13?
Because I don't want to do it. I'm not going to make
Well,
a
then
motion.
you are putting our community in a position where we may not come out very well in the future. So if that's your prerogative, then let's just go ahead and proceed with what you'd like to do.
I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you.
Let's table this until the 4 of us, or even 5 of us, has a chance to put their heads together and agree on if we're gonna exclude people that have a violation or not. Let's do that, and then once we do that, then we have something clear to give to Mr. Schroeder. Can we agree on that?
I would agree with that, Dennis. I understand Ken's angle on this, but...
It's not an angle, Mr. Smith, it's a concern. It's a concern for our community.
I will change my wording to your concern.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I agree, Dennis. I think this needs a little bit more discussion if we're going to direct the attorney to spend a considerable amount of time. On a minor thing, we could probably, any one of us ask, could you look into it, and you could probably get back to us. But on something like this, if it's going to take some time, it's going to be billable time, I think we need to know. We're asking him to do something on a hypothetical. I'm not quite ready to do that without a little bit more conversation, so I'll second your motion to table for now, and we can maybe.
Okay, my concern is I don't want this to die somewhere, you know,
Okay.
and get dusty. But I understand what Mr. Heckey's saying, and I think it's about, you know, to the most part, it's valid. It's just that we're putting the cart before the horse.
I think a little bit too. And maybe this would be something that we, you know, there's no critical event happening at the moment that I can see. That maybe we should let the voters in November, we get a fifth person on here that we can make I hate these 2-2 things all the time. It's not productive. So, but I'll agree with you and say, I second your motion to table it, say till after the election, or is that too long? You want to have another discussion between now?
Yeah, I just want it to stay fresh in our mind because you know, right now I don't know which way Tom's going to tell how to run with this. Yeah. But I do think it's a concern.
Sure.
And something needs to be done about that. It's just that, you know, everybody's getting wound up and, you know, going off in different directions now, and cooler heads must prevail.
Bring it back.
That would be fine.
I'm sorry, when?
You want to amend your motion to bring it back in a month, table it for a month? Okay. I'll second your motion to bring it back next month.
Moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Let the record show that it will be brought back in a month, and there was no opposition on the vote. And does any other council members have anything to report tonight?
Yes, Mr. Williams, I actually do. And I'd like to point out to you and to Mr. Smith, I know that you've stated this numerous times. We have demonstrated tonight that we can come together collectively and solve problems, vote on agenda items, and make decisions for this community. The one item that was contentious, we were not able to agree on. I would say that that is healthy democracy at work. We have not thus far had a situation where we have gone completely tied from start to finish regarding a topic on the agenda. So I think we're doing, honestly, a good job at getting the people's business done, and I think we should continue with that in the fashion. When we have a contentious item, we need to address it, and we did tonight. We discussed it, we negotiated the issue. That's how you do this in a healthy fashion. And I take a little bit of exception saying that we can't get anything done with a 2-2 vote. We've demonstrated that we can, and I think that's good.
Bravo. And I absolutely agree with you. If there's more than one person, then you're going to have more opinions. You know, let's respect each other's opinions and have a discussion. Be pissed off and go home. Sit down and watch TV or something, and that's all good. But you know, since we're stuck with the four of us, let's muddle through the best we can. You know, until we get five.
Ken, respectfully, I agree with you that.
Wait a minute, let me mark my calendar.
I agree that debate is healthy, and if it gets really diametrically opposed to 2-2, but there are certain times when we do need to have a decision made versus a tie. That's when I have a rub that we haven't moved off the dime, and the people's business isn't being done on the ties that we really need a critical vote. But at the moment, I have to agree that debate is healthy and good for the city.
See, we're learning.
Okay, the only comment that I have is that yesterday, Tehachapi looked pretty good when over 400 old-timers descended upon Central Park. And I was going to pass it on to Michelle that I heard nothing but great comments about how fast we were fed and how great the food was. And I had to just get really tickled because I was at a table with more than one former warrior, and one of them brought his yearbook, and he found some kid serving food that was his number, and he opened the book and he showed him and he said, see, this is a proud heritage. And he asked him his name, and you know, he says, and I'm going to watch, and I'll have more comments, you know, do Tehachapi proud. And this kid just stood there like, good grief. But it was so awesome. And these older guys talked to these young, football players. I just thought it was a really good day. And with that, we're adjourned.
Good meeting, Dennis. I feel good going.